welcome to the podcast. We have Daniel Goddard here joining us on the podcast. You guys are going to be really excited to hear his story. If you guys remember Beastmasters, Young and the Restless, he's also an entrepreneur and an amazing actor, just about to release today as we're recording this on April 15th, General Hospital, as he's joining it into that. So we're going to hear some of his origin story as being an entrepreneur, an actor. So stay toward the end too. We're going to talk about some tactics. Before we do, everybody that's listening in, I want to give you guys a gift down below in the show notes. Wherever you're listening or watching this, there's a free workshop of how to build an online brand, online business that can help impact more and more people. Go check that out. There's some really cool details about running ads, how to really set up a media team, a sales team. That's going to be really helpful for you. Daniel, as we dive into it, a question I ask everybody is, what is high performance? Like, what does that look like in a world that you've seen and worked with so many people doing this in your career?
I think high performance is subjective. It'd be lovely to label it with an objective sort of definition, but if you take, let's say you look at athletics and you say, here are 20 people and they're all track athletes. Everyone's going to run in their mind. They're at their high performance level, but that's the subjective side. But from the viewer watching it or the spectators, somebody wins, somebody loses, and then they're scattered between first and last place. So objectively, you would say that person who won is of a higher performance level than the person who lost. But the person who lost may have run a personal best in that race. So I think that the most important thing we can do is, as entrepreneurs or as people in general, is always look to compete against ourselves. If you're in sales and you got one lead this week, next week you get two leads, that's high performance. But to someone who's been doing it for years and they get 10, 15, 20, 30 leads a week, if you compare yourself to that person, you don't think you're high performance and you'll think that you're nothing. So you then start to break yourself down. You don't think you're high performance. You affect your own mental health and you affect your own acuity and ability to perform as a salesperson whose goal is to get another lead, another lead, another lead. And I think that once you start to look at high performance from a subjective mentality and not an objective, I think you can really start to delve into how you as a person can become a high performer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how do you serve people now? Like, you're in the acting space, but you're also like an entrepreneur. You have a bunch of different things. How do you serve people now so people get some context, even more about who you help?
I serve people through three outside of my family, of course, because I always serve my family as a husband and
Mhm.
a father. But as a person who serves outside of that, I'm an actor on General Hospital. Um, I aired today. I was on Young and the Restless for 14 years, and I had a show before that called Beastmaster. So you serve as an actor the audience, and here's where it starts to get interesting. You would think to yourself that you do serve the audience. I know I just said you serve the audience, but you also have to serve your employer, because I know a lot of actors that think that if the audience is on their side 1000%, that's all that matters. And so they'll start to tell their employer, this is not right. This should be like this. I don't like the way I'm being dressed. I don't like the dialogue. And you think that your audience is on your side, and they'll always, your employer will say, well, that's great because he's got this fan base. But at the end of the day, you serve your employer first, because they're the ones who will either hire or fire you. And if you disappear from the canvas of whatever production you're doing, the audience will say, well, where'd they go? But over time, it passes.
Mm.
So it's important. Number one is be professional. Professionalism and the ability to understand the parameters of the job you've been hired to do. There's an old adage in acting: turn up on time, say your lines, and don't bump into the furniture. Right? If you can stick to that, then you check the first box, which is satiating the wants and needs of the person who hired you. And generally it's a corporation. And corporations have a very small tolerance for lack of professionalism. You'll see a bunch of actors who might be A-list actors and they'll be like divas or whatever. they're divas because for the moment they're making money for the companies that hire them, but ultimately once that sort of wanes, they come and they go. Um, Secondarily, you then serve your audience, your base, your people that have been there for you, that turn up to the movie theater, turn on your show and watch it. And that's where we have control through social media, through marketing, through branding, because you are the brand that the employer deems you to be, the character that they create, the dialogue they make you say. That's the brand that you cannot control. But what you can control is your interaction with the fan base and the audience that follows you, likes you, and has been there for you, or is even just tuned in to see you. So you have to understand there's a difference between the two servers. So serve first and foremost the people that are hiring you in order to be a professional, and then serve secondarily the audience that is there for you, that is through thick and thin and on the journey with you, and you serve them through being a social person that branding wise and marketing wise and social media wise they can interact.
Mhm. And you have a marketing agency as well, and then you have an
Yes.
AI thing
Yes.
releasing
Yeah,
too.
that stems into what we were talking before we started. I'm very ADHD. Um, I've always been ADHD. I think one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor because I'm so ADHD, where I couldn't see myself doing just one thing. So I thought if it was acting, I'd be able to, play this character, then play this character, then play this character. So it's just feeding into my need to just all this sort of stuff. So the company is called Under the Inn. It's short for Under the Influence. So it's undertheinn.com. After I left Young and the Restless in start of 2020, I launched the company. We specifically do branding and create brands, launch brands, and then manage social media, pay-per-click ads, email campaigns. And that stemmed from me wanting to take everything I kind of learned through my acting career. I started in acting in '94 was my first paid gig. It was on an Australian show called Home and Away. It was a primetime soap opera. And then Beastmaster was from 1999 to 2002. Now, what's interesting is when I did Home and Away, there was only fan mail. Come Beastmaster, websites were the new thing. So you learn very quickly that you want to be able to stay in touch with fans because it's a wonderful thing to think that someone is going to watch what you do. Like as a podcast host, like you have people that tune in to watch your podcast, and you value that. You have to value that because they're your people that give you not just a base, but also they motivate you to want to keep doing it. So I started in '99 doing Beastmaster. So we built a website that we put a chat room in, and the chat room allowed fans to go and talk with each other because there was no social media yet. Fast forward into Young and the Restless, Twitter was out, Facebook was out, Instagram was out, but it wasn't really, no one was using it yet. Instagram was back in the day, you'd take a photo, put a couple of filters on it, and then you'd have like a photo album. So for me, I took all of this understanding of how do you build an audience and a fan base that can be part of an experience, just not just with you, but with others. Because you find that you'll always have people that have one thing in common. Say they've got General Hospital and ABC soap operas. That's the umbrella from which everything is underneath. And then it breaks down from there into, well, what characters do they like? How long have they watched the show? Where do they live? Then you start going, okay. And I learned this from doing fan events. I'd go and do a convention or a fan event, and you would be doing a meet and greet where you'd meet fans, take a picture, sign an autograph, sign a photograph, and you would see people that come to the front of the line and might be like two girls, three girls, a group of people, and they'd be like, you and your show and your character brought us together because we like met on a chat room, right? And now we said, let's go to the convention. Let's all meet each other for the very first time. So they're there on their first experience. They're there now where they're saying, you know, we've got so much in common. being the show and the character that anchored us and let us find each other. But now we're learning about, we love the same movies, we love the same sports. We also have 2 kids, 3 kids. We have this, that. And that breaks down the little things that kind of give you that not just superficial surface sort of relationship stuff, which is ultimately how I ended up now with Disco, which is the AI networking matching application. Because what I learned is that you could be at a convention, for example, where you're standing at the convention and there's all these strangers around you. They might be wearing a name tag and it says their name, says what company they work for, or what they're there, what it is they represent. But you don't know anything about the person. So it's a very difficult thing for people who aren't extroverts, who aren't socially sort of out there, to go up to strangers and be like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm so and so. Where are you from? What do you do?" And you'll talk to this person for like maybe 10 minutes and you realize you don't have anything really deeper than the first superficial things that made you say, "Well, we're at the same convention." So we created the technology that allows you to be at any convention, any conference, any high school, any college, any nightclub, anywhere. And you have a radius that you can choose around you. So you can choose from like 0.2 miles up to 10 miles. And then as people enter your radius, you start matching with commonalities. And we use hashtags. So when you create your profile, you can enter all the hashtags that define you, all the social tags, all the work tags. And then when people enter your radius, you'll get notified that person's there, and it'll say you have 10 things in common, 15 things in common, whatever. And then you can say, okay, I'd like to communicate with this person. So you can say AI messaging, where you can choose the things you have in common and the AI will start conversing with that person. So it's been a very long, interesting road that has led me to where I am now, but it's an accumulation of all these experiences that I've learned at the end of the day, human beings are social animals, and we want to find commonalities between strangers, because in those commonalities amongst strangers, you find friendships and companionships. So that's, I think, everything in my story in a nutshell, because I've learned, and I think acting is the thing that powered it all in the beginning, that we're all just basically squirrels trying to get a nut in essence.
How did you get into acting in the first place? Because I feel like so many people, it's closed doors. Like people go to, LA all the time to try to get
Mm.
acting gigs, and you're from Australia, it's a little bit different than being in the States, altogether. How did you end up getting into that circle in the first place of being an actor?
A lot of rejection, a lot of rejection. And it's one thing you do learn is that rejection is a wonderful thing if you understand it. And for me, I ended up acting in Australia, where I got my first job doing an Australian soap. And then after that show ended, well, after my character on that show, the storyline came to an end, I couldn't get any more work because Australia was such a small market where the amount of work they made was limited. So I kind of came to the understanding that if I want to try and pursue this, I've got to move to LA. Then I moved to LA and I got here in 96. Many people wanted Australian accents from a production producer point of view, because if you're an Australian, you're Crocodile Dundee, or you're what's his name? Oh, I can't believe I've forgotten his name. Steve Irwin, the
Okay.
crocodile. So Crocodile's playing both of those, the Crocodile Dundee and the Crocodile Hunter. So there was a stigma that went with Australians. You had Mel Gibson, you had Guy Pearce, you had Russell Crowe. Other than that, there was no one really here that was Australian. So I was always asked, I'd say my agent. I finally found an agent. Took about a year, and I was in an acting class, and I found my agent through someone in the acting class who had an agent. I went and met with them, and they said, "Okay." So I started getting some auditions for some things, and I always said to my agent, I said, don't tell them I'm Australian. Don't do that. I said, I will work on my American accent. I want to walk in the room American. I don't want them to question in their mind, because I had a couple of roles I'd gone out for say a Russian guy, and I walked in Russian accent. I learned a little bit of Russian. I did the whole thing. And then they asked me, so how long you been here for? And we start talking. And in my mind, I was like, if they know I'm Australian and they thought I was Russian, they're going to go, he's such a great actor. We have to hire him. We have to book this guy. So, I was in the middle of the conversation at the thing. I'd be like, do you want to know where I'm from? Like what country? Like from Russia when I moved here, right? And they'd be like, yeah, when'd you get here? Like, well, do you want the truth? Yeah. Well, and I go, oh, I'm Australian. And you see the room. I thought it'd be like, oh my God. And it kind of went, and I was like, oh crap. So anyway, conversation ends after a couple of minutes. I leave, call my agent, and he's like, how'd it go? I tell him how it went. And then like, you wait. A couple of days go past. Then I called them again. Did you hear back? And they said, yeah, they loved you, but they want a Russian. So I learned the lesson. So when I went in for roles that were meant to be American, I'd only go in as an American because I wouldn't want to give them the opportunity going, there's another guy we like, but he's really American. We'll go with that guy. So I learned through trial and error and a lot of hardship, a lot of rejection, that basically you have to be able to apply yourself to the acting craft with tenacity and resilience. Because you'll hear people who are actors now that are winning accolades and Oscars and whatever, and they're a 10-year overnight success. And they're like, let me tell you the story of how I did this. It's never simple. It's very rare you become Johnny Depp where you get your first audition, end up on, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the next movie the thing you get after that is 21 Jump Street. It's very rare. So for me, it was a knockdown, drag out, just battle. Looking back on it, would I want it any other way? No, because they're the things that give you the substance so that when you are acting and you're delivering dialogue, it's not bland, boring, and blah. Like after World War II, a lot of soldiers came back and ironically, they became actors. And you go, God, this is so interesting. When they talk, I don't know what it is. And you find out they fought in the Battle of the Bulge. There's one guy actually on General Hospital, and I was watching him act, and this is when I didn't know anyone there. This is like maybe a month and a bit ago. I was watching some scenes from my dressing room. I thought, that guy's really good. It's like, there's something about him that's interesting. And I walked on set, and he was walking off, and he saw me. He's like, hey, man, nice to meet you. I said, I'm Daniel. He said, I'm so-and-so. And I said, hey, great to meet you. And like, he said, welcome. I said, thank you so much. Anyway, so they kind of like stuck with me. And I was like, who is this guy? Never met him before, never heard of him, done anything bad, but he's interesting and he's personable. And I go and look him up. 3 tours in Afghanistan, 1 tour in Iraq. And he came back and decided to become an actor. He can just sit in front of the camera and just sit there. And there's something going on versus someone who goes, I want to be an actor. And they leave and they get a job because they're pretty or they're handsome, whatever. And then they're what I call stop-start actors, where if they're not doing dialogue, they're doing nothing. And they'll be like, I'm talking, you talk. And then it's like, while you're talking, they're just sitting there, and they're waiting to speak. And they go, what's the last thing they say? Then you finish speaking, then they just start talking. And the whole time as an actor, you're talking with these people. Like, see, I'm talking to you now, like you're nodding, you're listening, you're interacting. But you'll find actors who don't have any kind of like, I don't want to use the word substance, but any backstory,
Sure. Yeah,
any depth, any backstory. Like, it's just flat. And that's the thing I can say to anyone. Like, you want to become an actor, you've got to have some backstory. You've got to have some substance. You've got to have some trials and tribulations that make you different, from the next pretty face or the next whatever it is. You've got to have something that defines you, that when you walk in the room, I would say 90% of all people are cast the moment they walk in the room. Because they walk in the room, and I've been on the other side of it too, where I've had to be in casting sessions. They're casting another character and they want you to read with them, and you'll sit in the room with the casting people, and I'll have 20, 30 people walk in. And some people walk in, nothing going on. Then someone walks in and they don't do anything, and you just go, oh, who's that? And it's not even the way they look. It's just there's a aura about the person that just goes, this is interesting. Because when you put the camera on them, they don't have to do anything because you go, oh, something's happening here. And then they finally speak and you go, oh, I'm listening now. But otherwise, it's just bland and blah. So
And is
Yeah.
that built by the relentlessness that you had to deal with? Like that fortitude of being able to, or is that just a personality trait or like a gift?
I
Like,
think it's relentlessness because I look at myself when I was younger and I see negative traits in myself that probably inhibited me from getting where I want to go faster.
hmm
And I think you have to be self-analytical. I think you have to, in any business, whether it be sales, you pitch someone something and they don't respond to it. You can't be like, oh, it was them. Product's great. It's them. You got to go, okay, I know the product's good. Why did they not buy it? What was wrong with my pitch? Because technically you should be able to sell. Everything's so political now. Like there used to be an expression like you could sell. Someone said to me once, I did door-to-door sales at one point before I started acting. And you knock on the door opens. You have 10 seconds to literally decide whether or not this person's going to buy what you're selling or not. You got 10 seconds. And, I remember this person said to me once, after I pitched some stuff, they said, you could sell ice to Eskimos, couldn't you? And I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's a compliment. That was a compliment. Okay, cool. Thanks. Because you realize that you have to have, first and foremost, you have to be interesting enough when you talk to the person they want to listen. And secondly, you have to be able to look at the person you're talking to and go, who is this person I'm talking to? What's their story? So I'm knocked on the door opens. I see in the background, they might have like photos of their kids. They might have soccer trophies there, right? So I know that I was selling satellite TV. Never been in Australia before. It was this company that everything was just like it used to be here. It was like network TV or 4 channels. So this company came in doing satellite TV, and basically for $39.95, we'd put the satellite on your roof. You got a month free. You can cancel after it. So you could sell the use cases of the technologies now in the house. If you cancel, then you satellite ready. So you blah, 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 all these things. But what you wanted to do was like, so a lady would open the door and you'd see the soccer trophies. I knew we had soccer on satellite TV. You could never watch soccer on network TV in Australia. So my number one goal was to let her know that her kids could watch their favorite teams from playing in England and in Europe and wherever have soccer. Happy kids, happy mom. Happy mom, happy dad. Everyone's happy. So it's about figuring out what is it that's going to allow the person I'm trying to sell, say on their side, this will solve a pain point I'm experiencing. And once you do that, then you just do your best not to mess it up. At that point, the best thing is to shut up and then let them close the deal themselves.
were you married at this time that you were doing this? How did you meet your wife and how do you build everything that you're doing? And then being an ADHD, it's like you got everything going on. Like that, that would be difficult while you're building your career with
Well,
a
you know what's
spouse
interesting?
and your
So
kids.
I met my wife, I met Rachel July 26th, 1998. I remember the day very clearly. I was a waiter at Denzel Washington's restaurant, and I had not booked an acting gig at all yet. I'd been here for a year trying to get something, could get nothing. And I was standing at the restaurant and I was talking to one, we hadn't opened yet, and I was talking to another waiter standing next to me. And I said, you don't meet you don't meet girls anymore that make you go, wow. Then I looked up and I saw Rachel standing across the room and she had a clipboard in her hand. I said, like that. And I was like, who's that? So then I went into the kitchen to get ready. We're opening up. And then I walked out and she was standing at the swing doors when you walk out of the kitchen with the clipboard. And she goes, oh, hi. And I said, hey. And she's like, do you know where table such and such is? I'm like, yeah, it's over there. And we started chatting. Fast forward, um, it took me 10 days to call her. I got a number before she left. It took me 10 days to call her because I knew that she was going to be the one I was going to spend my life with. And I had to get my ducks in a row, right? Because I didn't want to mess this up. When I finally talked to her, she told me that she saw me across the room just around the time I saw her, and she positioned herself at the door because she saw me walk into the kitchen and was waiting for me to walk out.
Hmm.
It was meant to be. And this kind of is a through line for, I think, everybody's lives. You get things in life when you're ready to get them. And I remember just before I met Rachel, I said to myself a month before, I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to meet that person that's going to be the person I can settle down with. I was 27 at the time. 27? Yeah. I'm ready for this person in my life. And it manifested. Ironically, the same with General Hospital. About a week before I got the call for General Hospital to go and read for it, I said to myself, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I will, if it comes my way, it would be interesting because there's a part of you that just there's something about it. I know what it was. It just came to me. And then this opportunity came around. So I think that life is a conglomeration of moments in time that at the time, if it doesn't work out the way it's meant to, is the way it's meant to be. And if it does work out, it's the way it's meant to be. So I've learned to now cope with disappointment a lot better because I go, it wasn't in my cards, and I accept it and move on. But when you're younger and you don't recognize that yet, it's traumatic because you're like, why? You got to accept things. Once again, going back to performance, if you run the best race you can run, you've trained the hardest you can train, and you come last, you did the best you could do. Accept it. Don't beat yourself up. Don't quit. And you don't want to start running with people you can beat. That's the other thing too. You don't want to go, oh, I came last, so I'm going to go and change my group and go to like one down division. No, stay in the division you're in. Keep coming last. Because coming last, if you're a competitive person, sucks. And I'm shockingly competitive. That's another thing I learned in my life is you can't compete with everybody you meet about every single thing. You can't do it. You got to pick and choose your competitions. So always put yourself in a position where you can fail. Always put yourself in a position where you're existing and with people who are better than you. And then accept the way things play out. Learn the lessons that come from those experiences, whether they be success or failure, and keep growing every day the best you can.
How important is building a team around you to help support your life? You
Everything.
know,
Everything.
because you have all these businesses that you have, and
Yeah.
you're about to go into
It's
a
everything.
season that's busier.
I used to think that no one could do it as good as I could do it. Like, if I want to build a website, I'll build it myself. If I want to do this or market this, I'll do it myself. Because what happens to you in the beginning is you're open to meeting new people and building a team, but then you get let down. Like I had one person when I first started launching Under the Inn, this person was kind of down and out, had a couple of failures, things. They were in the marketing space. And I met them a couple of times. I talked with them. I thought, you know what? They just haven't been given a chance. And so I said, let's do this. In the 6 months I worked with this person, I realized they were their own worst enemy. They couldn't get out of their own way. Excuse me. They couldn't get out of their own way. Everything was overcomplicated. Everything was difficult. And I started to realize it's not about building a team. It's about building the right team. And you learn quickly. You have to trust your instincts. And then if you find someone that is committed and devoted to whatever it is you're doing, and they have the same vision for what you're doing, and they're easy to work with, cherish that person, look after that person, put them first. And hopefully you'll have someone who doesn't take advantage of you. If they do, then you got to let that person go too. But if they don't, and they understand that we're on this path, you've found gold. It's like finding a great partner in life. Your team you work with in your businesses has to be like your partner in life because they're all on a journey. You don't want people that are hopping from lily pad to lily pad to lily pad to get across the river. You want people that want to build the boat with you to go down the river, you know?
How much of a AI do you use every day?
I use it a lot because if you don't, I know people work at Google and they've actually been told if you don't use AI, your career at Google is going to come to an end very quickly
Right.
because it's, you know what, a great equivalent would be you're a ditch digger. And I used to dig ditches. When I was going through university, I had a job at a landscaping company and I was a shovel guy. And they would come in with the truck, they'd drop off like 5 tons of sand, and you would just shovel into wheelbarrows, shovel into wheelbarrows. Wheelbarrows would come along, shovel, 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 shovel. Breaking work. It would be like if someone came along with a little Caterpillar digger, And you as the business owner has the opportunity to get that digger, that machine, and say, no, I'm going to stick with the person with the shovel. That's what AI is.
Yeah, that's a good
And to not
analogy.
do that as a business owner, and we're all business owners, we're all brands. Like everybody watching this, you're a brand. You're a business. You're not just a human that has a job. You are your brand and business. You should find things and tools out there that will streamline the way that you can live your life so you can blend it with your business and your business is easier. Otherwise, you become one of these people that works 24/7. You end up having a bad relationship. Your kids grow up not knowing you. And what do you have at the end of the day? Trials, tribulations, and a couple of dollars in the bank. It's no way to live.
What's the secret being in Hollywood, staying married, having balance, enjoying your family, and then running business and stuff? I feel like you're an outlier.
I think you have to know what you want and who you are. I think I was fortunate when I met my wife. And we just celebrated our 27th year together. Um, my mom and dad have been together 59 years. So I don't know if it's a DNA thing that there are some people who have a proclivity to be more long lasting than others, or if it's a learned response. But I do say this, and you know this, is that marriage is never, it's not just a walk in the park. There's always ups and downs. There's always um, hard, hard parts and easy parts. But you have to say to yourself, life is like that. So why would marriage be any different? Why would your job be any different? Because anyone who basically is just a flat line and there's no ups and downs, well, if your heart flatlines, you're dead. Otherwise, your heart's like this, right? So I think within the organic structure of us as humans and physical organisms, we have this. There's summer, there's winter. There's summer, there's winter. Everything around us is an up and down flow in a sequence of events. It's not just summer, you know. Even though living in LA, it feels like it's summer all the time, and I miss the rain. But nevertheless, I still can't grow my tomatoes outdoors in winter. They just won't bloom. They won't hatch. They won't sprout. So that's what it comes down to. Is it's you have to be able to say to yourself, if you're a grinder and you grind, marriage is easy. If you're not a grinder and you're the sort of person that wants everything easy, marriage is hard. But it's life. So you have to look at things and say, how do I stay true to my values? Always stay true to your values. Always. Because you can't live with yourself if you don't. I'd rather fail at something because the other person did not accept me for my values than adapt my values to change for them, because you'll change for them and maybe 5 months later, 6 months later, it goes away anyway and you've sold your values, you know? So I think that's what it comes down to, having a strong moral compass, understanding what your ethics are and your moral core is, and then at the same time knowing that nothing in life is easy. Nothing in life comes free. If it's what is it? Nobody writes for free. If it's free, most times there's a catch. You know this in sales. Don't worry, it's free. Okay, sure, gotcha. What's the catch? Oh, there's no catch, so it's free. Yeah, okay. So what's the catch? But there is no catch. It's free. You know, never. It's never free. Nothing's free.
Well, dude, I can ask you a bunch of different questions. Like you're an intriguing person. Like I can talk to you all day long about like your acting career and your family and AI, but like how could people follow you and connect with you further?
If you want to connect about marketing and branding, the website is Under the Inn. That's UNDERTHEIN.com. You can take a look at what we do. There's a contact us page there. Disco, our AI networking application, is the website is disco, dysko.co. And we will be in the App Store place and the Play Store probably in about 2 weeks. We're looking to launch the MVP. So you can go to the App Store, Play Store, download it, check it out. Yeah.
Very cool. And then I'll put your Instagram account down below too, so people can follow you there.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
buddy.
I'll put all those links down below. Go follow Daniel. He's a great guy. You're going to see more of him in the future, I can only imagine. And so connect with him with all the amazing things. Daniel, thanks for being on the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and go follow Daniel and connect with that workshop down below. And we will see you on the next episode.